Welcome to the IoT podcast Cybersecurity mini-series special. I'm your host, Katie White, Head of Research and Partnerships at the IoT podcast, powered by 5V Media. Today, I'm joined by John Goodacre, Professor of Computer Architectures at the University of Manchester, and also Challenge Director, Digital Security by Design at UK Research and Innovation. In the episode, we get into the Risc-V developments and why it's important. We also discuss the new acts coming in, including the Cybersecurity Resilience Act in Europe, and what this may mean for open source software. So, hi John, it's great to meet you today. So, first and foremost, could you just tell us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Well, what do I do? Let's start with a little bit of background then. So, Professor John Goodacre, I'm a Professor of Computer Architectures at Manchester University, but I also direct the UK government's initiative around digital security by design. Previous 20 years nearly was at ARM. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft, so both enterprise software and low-level hardware.
Yeah, thank you, John. So, my first question for you today is what innovations are you seeing or have you seen in IoT this year, 2023? But also, what lessons have you learned as well?
Yeah. So I guess rather than look at the innovations, I'll look at the what I think is a positive mindset adjustment that's happening in IoT. So previously they were obviously, how does it work? How do we get a system to operate? But thankfully they're starting to worry about how they can secure their systems. So especially when they're starting to look at the commercialization aspects of having to share data appropriately, possibly to multiple different vendors or collating different vendors. So the idea that they're worrying about, the static security of the device, is it booting correctly? Is it the right image? Can I get the right upgrades on it? But also, obviously, that's been pushed by the government telling them to do it as well, which is another fairly important progression in the last year through the PSTI bill. But also they're worrying about the runtime protection. So in the Digital Security by Design program, we've had a lot of IoT-based businesses coming, evaluating the Morello platform, looking at how the Risc-V platform is evolving in terms of supporting security by design. So what that really means is technology at the lowest level that can protect you against the kind of mistakes and errors that happen in IoT systems.
Because Risc-V was something that was quite widely spoken about this year. For those that may not know what Risc-V is, could you please tell?
Yes, sorry. So Morello is a project by ARM in which the government created a helped them support a consortium to build what was known as the Cherry instructions, the capability enhanced instruction set that came from Cambridge University, and put it into the ARM architecture. But also Risc-V is a lot quicker, easier, more flexible to allow them to actually also look at that in a different architecture. So basically what we're talking about are things called instruction set architectures. It's the instructions which software asks the computer to execute things. And basically there's three main ones active in the world today. There's the x86 architecture, which is used across Intel and AMD. There's the ARM architecture, which is used in 25 billion plus new devices every year. So they're up to about 200 billion now, so quite a lot of chips. And then the Risc-V is the sort of the up-and-coming environment. It's probably in a few billion devices already, but the idea that you can evolve it to your requirements as you need going forwards. So really, it's the three instruction sets that software asks the computer to execute their applications.
Well, thank you so much, John. And that leads quite nicely into my next question. So what innovations can we expect to see in 2024? What do you think is going to happen with IoT security? Is there any sort of standout points, anything that you've seen this year that you can really see being even bigger next year? Or we're not even afraid to be candid. Is there anything? Absolutely no.
So I think, there was a company called Goodacre that announced the first commercially available IP core for Risc-V that has this new foundational technology in. So whether that will find its way next year into actual devices. There's also another Risc-V program that's been funded by the DSDB program, the Digital Security by Design program, in low risk, which was to take the Microsoft Risc-V Cherry-enabled processor and get that up to a platform level. So it could be that we will start to see those innovations being realized in products next year. But I think looking at the potentially the other side of the coin is that, I get to go to some of what I call the SQL Squivel meetings. Yeah, so, and they I would say, have pretty much lost the trust in computers. So there is no digital devices allowed in the meeting rooms. Okay, so they don't trust that any of them basically can be secure, or that they can trust the users to not record accidentally or whatever. But I think, is 2024 going to be the year that general society loses trust in computers? Probably not. But if you're looking at the rate of vulnerabilities, data loss, I was counting up that I lost my personal details 5 times in the last year. So, BA, pensions, etc. I can't remember all of them. The water board, they all basically lost all of my details 5 times. So do that to enough people and they'll go, do I actually even trust computers? So hopefully not next year. Hopefully we can get the secure technologies wiping out, 70% of the ongoing vulnerabilities up front.
Yeah.
That will stop that. But obviously I think that may start coming out of just this high security industries, that they're going, actually, I can't trust my IoT system to deliver the data securely. I can't trust it controlling this. So, let's hope it doesn't happen, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, because a lot of conversations that we've had on the podcast before is focused around the consumer side of IoT when it gets into the home, and that's a whole.
Yeah.
But then we also have it on the more enterprise side with CCTV cameras, and it's just
and there's the special version of the industrial IoT as well that actually starts running the chemical plants. You've got your critical infrastructures. They call the smart meters smart at the moment, but they're one way. So the idea there is just they're dialing up and giving numbers out. Imagine the next generation being turned around, that they can come in and start turning devices off in your home. Okay, at that point, the security of the infrastructure becomes quite apparent. So, telecoms, the idea that some of the, yes, they're turning off 2G and 3G. Some of that is security driven because you can just spoof it and do whatever you like with it. So you don't want that on the network. But what's the security in the 6G, where they're going into much more software defined networks? So rather than security by obscurity, because it's a custom chip, you're going to have general purpose hackable systems with buffer overflows and goodness knows what in their design, running the critical infrastructure for telecoms and emergency services. So it's going to be interesting. So there has to be this increased awareness that you have to start fixing the foundations of a system, not just managing the risks and the reduction of things. And there's been some interesting progressions in the last year where the security agencies around a number of countries have got together and started saying, yes, we've got cybersecurity best practice, the hygiene, all of those risk management, how do you patch, how do you maintain updates and things like that. But then they're starting to put pressure on the manufacturers to reduce. So in Europe, they've got the Cybersecurity Resilience Act going through at the moment, which is basically going to put liability on the person who wrote the code that is going to be attacked. So obviously major problems for open source software in that regard, because they basically say, no warranties to the applicability of the law. Well, the law's changing. So, hacker at home might be, not hacker, but coder at home might actually end up being liable for a major bank systems losing everybody's money, which is not something that's going to work very well. So, new technologies which can secure the foundations, can isolate higher risk code bases, all of those things should really start coming into the IoT designer's mindset of, okay, I really do want to leverage open source. I don't want to have to write an image decoder. But, even Apple in the last, month has got to update all your phones because an image could corrupt your phone and allow hackers in, and was allowing hackers in. So, but I don't want to have to write everything again. So put it in a box. So it's again part of the cherry technology. You can start putting software in boxes where they can't get out and cause bigger problems, even if there is a bug in it. So those kind of things, and hopefully that will start filtering through.
Well, thank you for those insights, John. And obviously, we are at the IoT Security Foundation Conference. It's the 9th annual one, I believe. And the focus this year is around, AI has been a topic that's spoken about quite a lot this year with the Gen AI stuff coming in.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on IoT security in the era of AI? What are your thoughts on that, John?
Well, for AI and security in IoT, there's probably two ways of looking at it. One is that AI can be the application. So, in other words, it's doing something. It might be helping you with your threat analysis or your monitoring. It's the actual application. But the other it's also an application in its own right that is at risk. So, in the same way that your browser is at risk as an application on the operating system running on the hardware, there's a whole stack of privilege and access points that can be attacked. Before you even get to the word processing document or the web page, there's a whole lot of stuff underneath. And the same's true with AI as well. They are written in a computer language, which may be at fault. They are running on an operating system. They are running with third-party libraries to be able to read and write files. They're probably talking to some network. So even underneath the model and the execution of the ML or the AI part, they are at risk as well. So, this really amplifies the importance of securing the foundations of the system, so that actually, when you build this stack up and up and up, there's some inherent security at the higher levels. Now, obviously, going back to the first part of that on the AI, the idea that they are a tool we can operate. What did I just hear in the keynote? They're a tool that can operate faster than a human to reconfigure and apply patches and things. I'm going, oh yeah. But the equal is true. If you don't fix your foundations, they're also a tool that can be used to attack your systems faster than the user. And at that point, all we're doing is escalating the weapons on the battlefield. We're not actually deciding the war's not worth playing. Let's fix the foundations. So that part of it I get quite concerned about. And I did actually mention that I walked out of the talk because I was just going, which probably I shouldn't do. I should probably stay to listen to see if there were some wonderful insights. But the idea of just AI battling out the cybersecurity of our world just makes me go, yeah.
I completely agree with you there, John. Like, is there any sort of ways that we can navigate around it, like for you, for it to be a positive? Because obviously with AI, it's like that there's the whole talk around ethics and AI as well. And do you think that's...
Yeah. So I think, well, I won't go into the ethics side immediately, but, is there a space for AI in cybersecurity and the management and risk? Yes, clearly there is, because it can spot things that a human or a non-intelligent driven tool won't be able to spot. It's whether or not you're closing the loop on that and asking it to action, where I personally start getting a little bit more concerned. So yes, there's definitely scope for the AIs to, monitor it. But as today, what's the first thing that an attacker attacks? They turn off your virus protector or your firewall, or they find ways in through your security. So if your AI is not secure, then it's not going to see it anyway. So it's both sides of that equation. And now, obviously, when you're starting to consider the ethics of it taking over the decision point, you're getting into some really interesting areas. I talked to some of the automotive people looking at the legality or the what's the word? I can't think what the word is, but the idea of who's at fault if there's a car crash of an autonomous vehicle.
ADAS,
yeah. So as long as, I think it got paraphrased to me that as long as the manufacturer's done everything they could to have stopped it, they're not liable. That's the word I was looking for, the liability. Now, looking at tools then being the defense against cyber, have they done everything they could have done to protect against it being failed and attacked? So I think that liability driven part of it has to come in, and that's where you're starting to thinking, well, you can't sue an AI. So whose problem is it? So that I think that whole area of the ethics of, giving computers the control over and making the decisions of humans is an interesting one, not just for the autonomous vehicles, but obviously in the cyber security world as well.
Well, thank you so much for your insights today, John. It's been really great to speak to you.